Hello, you're welcome. You're welcome onto my channel today, and it gives me great joy to observe you are viewing this video. I'm Professor Olayinka Akanle. I'm a lecturer in the university. On this channel, I do a number of stuff, but all the stuff I do on this channel, you can cluster them into sociology, research, relationship, and migration. Meanwhile, if you have not subscribed to this channel previously, kindly go ahead and click subscribe on your screen right now. Tap subscribe on your screen right now so you might be alerted every time I drop new video. Purposive sampling is the title of the video you are viewing. Meanwhile, I have numerous videos on sampling on this channel. I have videos on cluster sampling, systematic random sampling, simple random sampling, multi-state sampling, a lot of videos on sampling, especially probability sampling. So this video today is on purposive sampling, which is also known as judgmental or selective sampling. In purposive sampling, researchers, based on their expertise, make judgments on the best research participants to include in their studies. Unlike simple random sampling under probability sampling, where you give everybody equal chance of being selected, like they say in basic sampling, where you simply sample randomly, everybody has equal opportunities or chance. But in purposive, sampling is a non-probability sampling technique, in the sense that basically we can say you just select people based on, some intentions that you've got, some purposes that you have in mind. Meanwhile, some people call this, purposeful sampling. No, it's not purposeful sampling. It's purposive sampling. And if I want to break it down, I can say sampling on purpose. That is, you have specific purpose in mind for which you are sampling. And this purpose or purposes will determine who you go for, to be included in your sampling. So it's a component of non-probability sampling technique. That is, you don't give everybody equal chance. You know what you are looking for. So you know who you will give you the right information, and you go look for those people. So, and based on specific characteristics, based on specific criteria, based on specific benchmarks that you have set, and usually basic characteristics, usual characteristics or criteria that we set in purposive, sampling is relevance. How relevant is this research participant, or are these research participants, to your research questions? What is their knowledge? How much knowledge do they have about the subject matter? The knowledge base, the depth of knowledge. Are they the people that will give you the right information you want? Are they willing also? Willingness is another one. Experience is another character, is another, specific criterion that we set. So you're looking at relevance, depth of knowledge, the willingness to participate in your research, the experience of people. These specific criteria, they are very important in choosing your samples purposively. You want to be sure these people. For example, you are conducting a research on crime. Usually you might want to go for, police officers, inspector general of police, or you're conducting a study on smuggling. Definitely you go look for custom officers, for example. You're looking for migration issues, you go to, border management. You definitely look for immigration officials, or you are looking for labor turnover. Definitely you go look for maybe union leaders or human resources experts, or you're looking for reason for strikes, or you look for example, union leaders or people who have experienced strikes before, or depending on what you're looking for, or you're looking for, you are studying a subgroup, generally speaking. Then you go look for members of the group, or you're looking for gender-based violence. Who are you? Sometimes you will need to talk to people who have experienced gender-based violence, or people who have perpetrated gender-based violence. That's purposive. You're looking at unemployment. You want to understand unemployment in the sector of the economy. Then you go look for unemployed people. For example, or you look for industrial conflict or human resources management. So you have this research you want to do. Then you go look for people with relevant experience, and you choose them without necessarily randomizing. This is not simple random sampling where you say, okay, you want to just sample systematically. No, you're going to look for the right people. And I want to warn, and this is very important. You have to listen to me carefully here. Because it's purposive does not make it less scientific. I've heard this severally. People say because it's purposive, it's not scientific. No, that does not. By the time you are putting in your expertise to even identify the right people, going after them, that does not make it less scientific. Science means following methodical processes or procedures to arriving at very valid and reliable conclusion. Following methodical approaches, using the right methodology to arrive at a factual conclusion. So because you are doing it purposively does not mean it's less scientific or that it's less quality than maybe probability sample or systematic random sampling or multi-stage sampling. No. So because it's purposive, it just means that that is the right sampling approach for your work. And that does not make it less scientific. Please, this is very important. And it doesn't make it easier. Because there are some people you need to answer your research questions and they are hard to reach. You have to look for them. You can't say, I can't find them, so I will now sample randomly. No. So it doesn't make it easier. Because purposive, what you are trying to do is just that you are deliberately making effort to identify relevant research participants with necessary insights, necessary knowledge to answer your research questions. Deliberate, intentional identification. The process of deliberately, intentionally identifying relevant, interviewees, discussants, research participants with strategic and important insight, knowledge, information and experiences that are needed to answer your research questions. And it doesn't mean you're going to find them so easily. I've used this severally, and it was not easy at all. And it was not easier than when I've used simple random. So it's not necessarily easier, it's not less scientific, because to deliberately or intentionally identify relevant, knowledgeable participants based on your research question may not be easy. Imagine you want to study crime or you want to study labor and productivity. You have to see the Minister of Labor, for example, or you have to see the Human Resources Manager, for example. Have they even allowed you to enter the company to start with? Have you gained access? I've sent students or my progressive students to field to go and gather such data. And they said, excuse me, sir, they didn't allow us to enter. Yet, these are the right people for you to interview. What are you going to do? If it's simple random, you can simply go to the public, ask people randomly on the street. You're fine. So these are, and what are the characteristics of this purposive sampling? Number one is deliberate, intentional selection of people. You are intentional. You know what you want, and you know who can give you the information, so you deliberately pursue them. Then it relies on your expert judgment. You, the researcher, you are the expert. So this purposive sampling rely on your judgment as an expert. So expertise is key. There is non-probability. That is non-probability design in the sense that you don't just sample anybody anyhow. So it doesn't give everybody the same chance of being selected in a population, unlike probability, or when you talk about simple random or systematic random sampling or multi-stage. This non-probability sampling, which is purposive sampling, gives no equal chance to people of being selected. You only target people with relevant information, relevant experience, relevant insight, relevant knowledge, and willingness. Then it is mostly used in qualitative research. It's hardly used in quantitative research, which sometimes we want to generalize. Meanwhile, I have a video on generalization on this channel, so you can view it. So this one is mostly used in qualitative research, where you want to deeply understand the issue, the socio-cultural environment, driving the issues you are interested in. So it's mostly used in qualitative research, and again, it targets specific individuals, specific groups that are important to you. Then they can give you rich information, because you pick the right people and you study them, you interview them, because they have the right information, you have targeted the right people with relevant extended information. So it usually gives very rich, nuanced, comprehensive, detailed information. Imagine you are studying aging in a population, or retirement experiences of people in a sector of the economy. Then you go talk to people you have to look at people who have retired, who have worked to retirement. Then you are talking to them. It's as though you are talking to archive. They're going to give you life history, rich information, about aging and retirement. So it gives you rich. And it has its own advantages and disadvantages. So what are the advantages? It can give you efficient use of resources because you know who you are looking for and you've targeted them and you're getting your information. Or like sampling, you don't even need to sample very large population. Unlike in probability where you start sample large population. But this one is just the right people. So you use your resources, time, money, expertise, and other resources more efficiently. They give you detailed depth of understanding, rich contextual understanding. You get detailed information. And you have rich understanding. And again, it's very flexible. It can be flexible. It's not rigid like probability sampling, where you just have to follow a very predetermined path. But in purposive, it's flexible. You can change your strategy. You can change a number of things. So it's not rigid, but it has its own disadvantage also. A major disadvantage is that it has the capacity to enable the researcher to be biased. You just pick your sample. You can say, okay, this is the one I want to include. I don't want to include this one. So you rely on the researcher's judgment. And this can lead to bias because you don't even give everybody equal chance. Then you cannot generalize the findings because you have chosen people, usually not very large sample, and you have chosen specific people in a specific context at a specific time. So you may not be able to generalize your findings to a large population. Then I have a video on generalization. Generalization, on this channel. View a video, you will understand it more. They can, it can enable the result to be subjective. So subjectivity as against objectivity. In probability sampling, objectivity is key, but in purposive sampling, and objectivity is the element of science, basic characteristics. So if you view my video on objectivity and subjectivity in research, there's a video on that on this channel. Objectivity and subjectivity in research. View that video to understand what I mean in this place. So, but in terms of purposive, subjectivity is usually a major issue because it then relies on researchers, preconceived notion, worldviews, perceptions, expertise, judgment, which can affect the quality of the data and the quality of the sampling. So, potential for bias, not inability to generalize, and subjectivity rather than objectivity in sampling. And these are three major issues. Then, if the researcher is not so competent, is not full of expertise, because don't forget I said you need a lot of expertise to be able to do this, to make the judgment on who to include, and it can be very difficult. It can be a problem. So you also need huge expertise to be able to determine who to include and how to pursue them, how to access them. So high level of expertise needed. So these four elements are very key, right? But they don't negate the relevance or utilization of purposive, but just have to manage the advantages and disadvantages. Till I see you in my next video, click subscribe and bye for now.